that the revisions of this, but his patience with the conflict is wearing thin.
The United States and the Trump administration continues to be very much engaged in trying to bring the Russia-Ukraine war to an end. The President had a call with Europeans yesterday. His special envoy Witkoff and his team continue to talk with both sides literally as we speak. If there is a real chance of signing a peace agreement, if we feel like those meetings are worthy of someone on the United States' time this weekend, then we will send a representative.
What is the holdup? It's land, of course. Let's take a look at the maps and see where things stand. Now, prior to Russia's full-scale invasion in Ukraine, it already occupied Crimea, parts of Donetsk and Luhansk, which operate as breakaway states, recognized and supported by Russia. Now, this stayed like this until, well, since 2014. Now, almost 4 years since Russia's full-scale invasion, which Putin claimed would take only 3 days, the maps look like this. Everything that you see here in red is now Russian control. The green land up here near Kharkiv and Kherson, well, that's land that the Ukrainians have gained back. Volodymyr Zelensky wants to continue till Ukraine's defense until that red line here turns green again. But Vladimir Putin won't walk away empty-handed unless he can keep the maps looking like this or trade some of his territory for the entire Donetsk and Luhansk region, known as the Donbass, an unlikely concession on President Zelensky's watch.
So the question becomes, where can we go from here? Let's bring in our experts to discuss. Colonel U.S. Marine Corps, retired and senior advisor with the CSIS Defense and Security Department, Mark Cancian, plus national security analyst and former U.S. Secret Service Barry Donadio. Welcome to you both.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So, Colonel Cancian, a spokesperson for the Kremlin, said only yesterday that the entire Donbass belongs to Russia. What are the real chances of this actually being the end result, sir?
Well, the dispute is over part of Donetsk province. The Russians control about 2/3 of it. They want Ukraine to concede the other third. Ukraine is unwilling to do that. Zelensky argues that that can only be done by the Ukrainian people in some sort of plebiscite. And they've been quite adamant about that, that they're not going to give the Russians any territory that they haven't already occupied.
Barry, the U.S. framework also requests that Ukraine hold elections. And this is something that they have agreed to. What could the conflict look like, though, under new Ukrainian leadership? Do you see it changing at all?
Thanks for having me on. Yeah, I think this would favor Vladimir Putin. He wants a government that's going to favor Russia and maybe not be so hostile against Russia and maybe start to try to make peace. That's why he wants Zelensky out of there. But the bottom line is, let's not forget, Russia wants all of Ukraine at the end of the day, not just Donetsk and some of the other regions.
You're right. And we've seen before in the past when a pro-Russia president has tried to step in, the way that the Ukrainians have reacted. You only have to think about the Orange Revolution there as well. So the chances of Zelensky, I do believe, feel, will still be the same under the next president, or if they continue to keep him in. But Colonel Cancian, we also saw a notable reversal from President Trump here, because he says that the U.S. will take part in providing Ukraine security assurances to end the war. And that's something that Ukraine and Zelensky were asking for, but he had rejected this in the past. What would these security assurances look like?
Look, the president hasn't been clear. It is an important statement on his part that he will participate in security guarantees, because that's the second big issue out there. Zelensky and the Ukrainians want guarantees that Russia will not attack again, and if it does, that they will be able to defend themselves. They, of course, would like to join NATO. That itself isn't in the cards, but it's possible that they could continue their current close relationship, maybe get some sort of peacekeepers, maybe get some sort of guarantees about territorial integrity, maybe have forces in Eastern Europe that would be able to support Ukraine if the war broke out again, maybe air power. But this is a key element for Ukraine.
Yeah, Barry, I want to go back to this idea, notion of, elections in Ukraine. What do we know about the popularity of Zelensky? Should those, elections carry out, how likely is he to be reelected if he's on the ballot?
I think he'll win overwhelmingly. The Ukrainians support him. Obviously, the Russians don't, and that's why they want him out. So ultimately, this is a sore point for Russia. They look at it as a way to win the war over everything, getting Zelensky out of there. If they eliminate him from the stage, then just much more easier for them to do what they want.
Yeah, something else that's important to bring up just on that case, because you brought up the subject again, is that not having elections is part of wartime. That's natural over there for wartime. It's not like Zelensky said, I don't want elections. They don't try and change leadership during a war. Same thing happened in Israel as well with Netanyahu. But let's switch gears now anyway quickly, because we want to talk about Venezuela. The seizure of the oil tanker is sparking a lot of controversy, obviously. The vessel was seized on the grounds that its oil sales violated American sanctions on Venezuela and just bankrolls the Maduro regime. Critics, however, contend that the action undermines international norms by targeting a foreign flagged ship outside of US waters. So, Barry, what do we know about this vessel? Where was it headed and what was on board?
Well, as far as we know, what is alleged is that oil has been embargoed and it's not supposed to proceed. The Venezuelans are not taking President Trump's warnings seriously. He said the airspace also was closed over Venezuela. If you monitor the air traffic there, they're still flying. So I think Trump right now is saying to the Venezuelans that you're not taking us seriously. So he's starting to enforce the embargo and some of the rules that have been in place for a while. We can't forget that Maduro is a drug cartel leader overall. And at the end of the day, there's a bounty on him to get arrested, brought to the FBI, higher than there was for bin Laden. So that should be a clue.
Yeah. Colonel, final question to you, about 45 seconds. I mean, what type of pressure does this put on Maduro with these vessels being seized? What does this do for him moving forward?
Well, the seizure of the one vessel put some pressure on Maduro because the oil is so important for Venezuelan economy. The administration hopes that the regime will crack, but they've also threatened to seize additional tankers. They've noted there are 6 other embargoed or sanctioned tankers. And if there were a general blockade of Venezuelan oil, the Venezuelan economy would collapse. So that's what the administration is threatening. It's hoping to have a regime change without further escalation.
Yeah, well, we'll keep following that. Colonel Mark Hansen and Barry Donadio, thank you so much, gentlemen. We appreciate you.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
Up next.